But you know what? We're going to get started. I am aware that people will continually kind of pop on here over the next really 4 or 5 minutes, usually my experience tells me. So welcome to another Espresso Agent Mastery session. These things are awesome. And I have been so blessed to be able to be kind of your hostess all through, I don't know, last couple of years, I guess we've been doing these. And we've had some amazing, insightful, creative, practical sessions to help you grow your business. And the great folks at Espresso Agent are always concerned about that. It's not just about, you know, helping you call expireds and FSBOs and get through the data that they give you. It's about how to have a full business and have a business that's meeting your needs. And they really are concerned about that. And that's why they spend time finding people like Doug to spend an hour or so with us, 30 minutes, 45, an hour.
No, it's going to be maybe 15.
No, 15, no. So anyway, welcome you guys. Thanks for spending your time. We're going to make this, actually, I'm really excited about this subject because it's unlike anything we've had. A lot of what we have can overlap a little bit. This is really different and really important. So I'm very psyched. A couple housekeeping items. If you've been on these calls, you know that we have you guys muted, which is not because we don't want to hear from you. It's just for all of our benefit. You know, there's lots of background noise and that gets really kind of distracting. So we've got you guys muted, but as I said, we really do want to hear from you. I want you to go down to the chat button or the Q&A. I can see both. I want you to ask your questions of Doug. I mean, chances are if you're thinking it, somebody else is wondering it. So don't be shy, no bad questions. You can ask Doug about his dogs at his house if you want. I mean, we don't, whatever. He's a pug guy.
Yeah.
Or should I say Kate is a pug gal and you by default?
By default.
Are a pug guy. Right?
I sort of like them.
Yes, sort of like, okay. So the other question we always get, and we'll get it again by somebody that pops on here later is, am I going to be able to watch this back? And yes, of course. This video will be recorded and it'll be cut down so that you don't see the goofiness in the beginning. And it'll be put on Espresso Agent's YouTube channel, which is full of all of these. So go and spend some time, and they're labeled with, you know, kind of what the topic was. So today's topic is branding. And do you think of yourself as a brand? You know, are you equivalent to a toothpaste? Are you Crest? We want you to be the Crest of real estate agents, right, Doug?
Exactly, yeah.
That's right. So, you know, how are we telling our story? How are we personally branding ourselves and telling our story so we can actually, really in essence, redefine our business? And what we're ultimately looking to do is have people connect with us and create that connection through that so that you have an easier time through that relationship of converting business. And Doug Spak, who is kind enough to be with us today, is one of the smartest, most creative guys I know. His writing skills are through the roof. I don't know about you guys, but I always appreciate when somebody has the writing talent. It's so cool to be able to get what's in here and really creatively put it onto paper. So Doug's got a long history in media. He's worked with different advertising agencies as creative director and media director, I guess, with Northlick. Did you do local stuff with Northlick, or was that national stuff?
Both. No, national and local.
Yeah, so you've worked on local, regional, national brands. This guy knows what he's talking about, and he's been spending time in the real estate world, and so he's applying those things to real estate. And how can we stand out in the sea of real estate agents that you have in your market? So I could go on and on about you, Doug, but why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and get us started?
All right, good. Well, thanks everybody. It's great to have you, and thanks for that introduction. So I'm assuming they can see me because
they can see you. Yeah.
So as I was going to do a sort of a PowerPoint presentation because I have a face for PowerPoint, but I thought, you know, I want to talk person to person. So I have some slides that I might show, but we'll see how that goes. So anyway, yeah, I have been in marketing and advertising for almost 4 decades, which tells you all you need to know about this old dude. and it's been great. And yeah, the last couple of years I've worked closely with Espresso and Radio Digital, and have been learning the real estate business, and it really is, fascinating. Because I was going to start by saying, here's my iPhone 7 or 8 or 10 or 14 or whatever, and the reason I was going to start here is because it really is relevant to this discussion. Because my wife and I, when the new phones come out, we just go and we give them our open checkbook and we say, put the number down, and we all have iMacs, and we're really brand loyal, and that's because Apple and Steve Jobs, when he started Apple at the age of 28, 29, he knew something that is critical to marketing, and we're going to talk about that. And that is, he understood what consumers needed. So it wasn't like he was just selling, he knew he wasn't selling technology. He was selling the ability for people to be empowered. And it was a revolution. I mean, he obviously, one guy revolutionized the world, not just the business world, the world. And it's because he knew that, and as Monica said, I've worked for a number of different, lots of different, I've been in almost every industry. Early in my career, I worked on Tide laundry detergent, which you would think is boring. And, there's a great example of how a brand, again, empathizes and understands what consumers want. Because if you look at a box of Tide versus a box of All versus any other detergent, they're all made from the same stuff. Mm-hmm. The same thing with an Apple computer. I mean, it's essentially all the same stuff. But what Tide figured out was, and again, I'm going to use terms here that are now outdated, but this goes back 40, 50, 60 years. What they knew was that housewives at the time wanted to feel good about themselves and wanted to have this positive feeling about, so they equated having white clothes and clean clothes with being a good mom, a good wife. And, that's a really powerful emotional thing. So it's not about what's the facts of Tide. It's about the story they told. And so I've done that for a lot of years, and now here I come, I'm doing this in the real estate industry, and it really is, it's so fascinating to me because I've never worked in an industry this competitive. I mean, it's, I had asked Monica early on about Cincinnati. So in Cincinnati, at any given time, there are probably 10,000 to 12,000 homes on the MLS, right? Mm-hmm. Which is probably, I don't know, maybe 10% of the homes in Cincinnati. But at the same time, there's like 4,000 to 5,000 agents competing for those 10 to 12,000 homes. I mean, that blows me away. And so I look at it and I say, of course, there are those agents who are, elite, who are great prospectors, who, do an unbelievable job. There's a vast majority of them who might sell a couple of homes. Maybe it's a side job. But to me, the challenge is working with that group who, this is your living. This is how you put food on the table. And not everybody's going to be a natural phone prospector. Not everybody's going to be a natural storyteller. But this is the career you've chosen. And so, as Monica said early on when she sort of did the introduction, this really, marketing to me is one of the most critical things and one of the most misunderstood things or underutilized things in this industry. Mm-hmm. And if you're on this call, you're an Espresso agent client. And so that's great. It's a great tool. It brings you the technology you need to be better at what you do. Chances are you have a coach because, as I've said, talking to somebody the other day, I think there are more real estate coaches than there are agents. Everybody's a coach, but that's good. So you're doing the right things. You're doing the right things to move your career forward. But here's the thing. The other agent down the street and the other agent down the street have access to the same tools. So everybody might be using similar tools. So the question is, how do you differentiate yourself? It's Apple versus Android. They both get the job done, right? So you can sell a home just as good as the next person, but how do you differentiate yourself in the marketplace to get more leads, to get more transactions? And that to me is what marketing is all about. I sort of look at marketing as, if you sort of build it, it's creating awareness and familiarity. How do you get people familiar with your name? How do you get your name out there? Because then that familiarity brings a certain degree of credibility, so that when you are calling somebody and you do break through, you might hear them say, I've heard about you, which is huge. We call it maybe a warm call as opposed to a cold call. But to me, the biggest thing about this whole process of marketing is it helps to build trust. And great brands, that's what great brands have in common. They have a place of trust with their consumers. Again, it's Apple to us. We trust that it's going to be easy to operate, and the product's going to be good, and the quality is going to be good, and people think we're cool because we have Apple products. And that's a big part of what Apple's done, is it's something that you're proud to carry. And so to me, that's a big part of what we do. And I had mentioned all these big brands, Apple and Tide, and I've been fortunate to work on them. And somebody might say, well, geez, Doug, they've spent billions of dollars on advertising. Yeah, that's true, but the game has changed in recent years. Nike used to be one of the biggest advertisers in the world. They now spend about 10% of what they spent, but their profitability has doubled over the last 10 years, because what they've done is they've figured out how to tell their stories in different ways, whether it's video or social media. And so it's not just about saying, I got to be in advertising, although we can talk about that. It's about, what are the ways that you can tell your story? And in today's marketplace, 10 to 15 years ago, a real estate agent, if you wanted to market your personal brand, you had to do what everybody else did. You had to use TV or radio or newspaper, and that was expensive. But today, you've got all these options, which can be overwhelming at the same time. So, the question is, how do you go about telling your story? And I think for me, as I've been in this business for the last couple of years, what I see as I look at the landscape of real estate is a tremendous amount of sameness. It's a lot of people doing, a tremendous amount of people doing the same thing. Their websites are the same, social media is the same, collateral is the same. And I get that because, there are certain conventions that we have, so a website needs to look the same, and it's safe. And I think that that's sort of one of the reasons why people go that route. And what I say is, how can we break convention? How can we get out there and do something that's different? That you're telling your story in a way that's different, so that nowadays when people get to your website, in many cases they've already looked at the houses that they want or are interested in, and now they're looking for that person who's going to represent them. And they're looking for, well, what's your story? Yeah, you've got the house of it, but how do you tell your story differently? So really, it's about telling a compelling story, and it's about using emotion. Which again, there's a saying that maybe you've heard, which is that facts tell and stories tell. And that's really true. And it's research based, that people are much more attracted to stories. They're much more likely to buy something from you if there's an emotional hook. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to share something with you. So just bear with me. It's not real estate related, but it's sort of in the same area. I did some work a couple of years ago with a guy who's a remodeler. He's a kitchen and bathroom remodeler. And it's very good, does great work. But it's a really competitive category. Not as competitive as real estate, but really competitive. And he was advertising in this sort of high-end magazine that had a section of the magazine where they profiled all of the pros in that magazine. And he wanted me to help write his profile. I went in and I looked at it, and by far the biggest category in this section was kitchen remodeling, bath remodeling. And Every business had the same profile. Had the slideshow to show your work, and then the profile was about the fact that we're very passionate and we use the best materials and we source the best things, and everyone was the same. And I said to him, you know, let's turn this convention on its head. Let's tell your story, but let's create it from a story of a woman talking about in the first person about her experience looking at her kitchen the first time. So I wrote this. I just want to share this with you only because, and then I'll tell you about how it affected his business. So again, his profile looked the same, but this story was below his picture, and I called it The Kitchens of Our Lives. And I'm going to share this only because I think I can make this relate to real estate. So again, it's written in the first person from the woman who's walking in, and it says, "It's just a kitchen," I told myself. "It's just new appliances and cabinets, backsplashes and fancy lighting. Don't forget the months of disruption, vendors and delivery trucks, tear down and construction, noise and dust, and a few last minute touch-ups. Finally, it was time for the reveal. Kimball, as Kimball Derrick is the designer, led me in, and I stopped, needing to catch my breath at what lay before me. I walked to the counter, run my hands across the leathered stone top. Suddenly, I'm back in the eating kitchen of my youth, at the center of which stood a dented chrome dinette and 4 chrome chairs with red plastic cushions. And I can almost smell Mom's world-famous cinnamon snap cookies cooling atop the old Amana stove. I reached down to touch the smooth backsplash glazed in my favorite shade of blue. Now I'm in the first kitchen of my first apartment in a new city with a new job out of college. Everything was mismatched, odds and ends donated by grandparents or picked up at garage sales. But the dish towels and plastic placemats were all new, designed in that same favorite shade of blue. And I smile, recalling the acrid smell of the charred remains of my first attempt to recreate Mom's world-famous cinnamon snap cookies. I walk over to the island, pull out a stool, and sit. Suddenly, kids are everywhere, and I'm embroiled in pitched battles over unfinished homework and overdue science projects, uneaten broccoli, and often ignored curfews. I take in the aroma of homemade cinnamon crisp, my mom's world-famous recipe mastered and passed on to another generation. I get up and walk over and open the Sub-Zero refrigerator, recalling the always overstuffed refrigerators of countless holidays, commotion and joy, too much food, and that always wild uncle who had one too many gin and tonics. I close the door, turn, and am momentarily overwhelmed as I take in the aromas of those past holidays. Thanksgiving, turkey and pies, Christmas cookies, New Year's Day pork and sauerkraut, Easter ham and hot cross buns. I walk to the deep double sink, run my hands over the polished nickel faucet. I look out the windows at the blue jay splashing in the bath. Suddenly, the yard is full of people, colored lights strung overhead, and I'm preparing food for parties, birthday and graduation, engagement and anniversaries. I close my eyes, taking it all in, the smells and sounds, the familiar faces, many now gone, of countless family celebrations. Finally, I turn to Kimball, my face moist with tears of Thanksgiving. I walk over and hug him. "It's perfect," I say, "absolutely perfect." And that's when I know this kitchen, like any kitchen, is much more than cabinets and appliances, backsplashes, and lighting. It's the one place in every home where we tell the story of our lives.
Oh my God, that's so good.
So,
I love that.
So he's got more calls than he's ever gotten, and I wanted to share that because I think a lot about how homes are sold.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about the facts, and but every home has a story to it, and I think that there is an opportunity in our world to tell stories like that, to create something that people can go, wow. And even when you're meeting for the first time with a prospect, I think the orientation is to sort of say, I'm going to give you all the facts about how many homes I've sold and everything, but maybe it's really about how you've come into this industry and, the first time you sold a home. I mean, to me, it's again, connecting with somebody, and we connect through emotions.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I wanted to share that. I know it's a little long, but I wanted to say that I think that's the kind of thing we can do in this industry. So
Love that. I love that. Doug, when you were saying that too, not only can we tell our story, but I'm thinking we should learn to ask our clients about their story in the house so that we can market and create that for the next buyer, right? Is that
I totally believe that, Monica, because, I think of going to an open house and every one of those sheets looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember this, but my wife and I sold a house that we had many years ago. We sold it on our own. We built our own website. This is way before WordPress and everything. And that's what we did. We knew the story of the house and we told it. And, there's so much history in every house, and I think that if you've got a home that you're trying to sell to another family, I want to hear, well, at least I'd be curious about how you raised your family in the backyard. And I think that those things, we miss out on them.
And about the deer that visits every morning or
right?
Whatever. Yeah.
You paint the picture for somebody that is much more than 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I'm not saying those aren't important, but that's not the story.
Right.
Those are it's like Tide laundry detergent's made of enzymes, blah, blah, blah. Those are your 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. But the story is how mom feels when she makes the clothes white. That's the story that we need to tell. And I think we do miss that. So,
what are some practical ways then that an agent can embrace that idea? And maybe we're not all writers like you are, but we can still stand out by embracing the overall concept of that.
Well, I think part of it is, so part of this is sort of making the commitment that you want to do marketing and that you want, because you can find local people who write, and part of that is having those discussions with your clients when you sit down with them is tell me the story of your house. And maybe what you do is you just record that. Because you don't necessarily have to be a great writer, or you can get the basics of it and translate that to something with maybe the help of a writer. So one of the things we've done, and I know webinars aren't about selling, but I do think this is sort of an interesting thing. We've created something that we call Personal Brand University, YOU, because we wanted to have a fancy name.
I like it. Okay.
Yeah. And here's what it is. It's not a school. It's sort of coaching. It's a little bit of everything, but it's 4 one-on-one sessions where and most of them would be done with me, where I work with an agent to build a marketing plan. And it really is, it's from soup to nuts. It's sort of understanding what are your business objectives and talking about your business objectives. And, one of the things is we've had discussions with agents who will say, well, I did 40 transactions this year, and next year I think I'd like to get to 100. Really? I mean, that's great, but how many more calls do you need to make to get from 40 to 100? And so that's, to me, where marketing comes into play is, all right, well, let's talk about what you need to do to build the awareness, to build the engagement, to get from 40 to maybe 70 in 1 year. And that, to me, is the beauty of marketing. And so what we do is we go through the business process. We talk about budgeting and how to create budgets. But then we really get into what's your story, what makes you different. And I'm going to show you a couple slides for something we've done for one of our clients in Cincinnati. But it really is, it's a 4-week process after which you have a plan, because most people don't have a plan when it comes to marketing. And, we can work on your collateral, we can work on a video strategy. I find that a lot of agents, for example, have blogs on their website that sit empty, or they might post something, and if they do post something, it's really, well, here's the latest house I have on the market, as opposed to posting content that might be valuable for somebody, provides value to somebody. So that's one of the things we do with the school. I call it the school. I'm not sure what we call it.
University, right? Well, can you give us some examples of some techniques that some of those agents that you've worked with are employing?
Yeah, let me. I'm going to switch my screen off.
All right.
And I hope I do this the right way. I'm
We'll
so
see how
nervous.
it goes. We may never see you again.
Right. Can you see me now?
I see you now.
Okay. So,
At the bottom, hit share screen. Did you do that?
so are you able to see this?
Nope, not yet.
Oh, I didn't. I thought I had share screen. I'm sorry.
Share screen, the bottom of the Zoom.
Oh, I got it.
There you
Okay.
go.
Okay.
Yep.
Sorry about that.
Now we got you.
So I'm going to show you some work that we did with a client here in Cincinnati, Jen Mertlin, and it's team synergy. And I really want to be clear about saying she is a top agent. She's really good. So it's not like what she was doing before didn't work, and we all of a sudden magically turned her business around. So she was really good. But what she wanted to do is she wanted to take her business and her brand, her team synergy brand, to another level. So we've been working with her over the last year on everything from developing a new logo and a new sort of color scheme for her, changing all of her collateral. So one of the things I wanted to do was to show you some of the collateral on a sort of side-by-side basis. So for example, this first thing was her expireds. She had a packet for everything, and the cover was the same. And so what we did was we added imagery, we played with some headlines, so we added color to it, and we just made it a richer experience for her. Same thing with her. This is her FSBO package, and it takes more than that to sell your home. So again, we're trying to tell the story, and I'm going to show you some of the inside pages too. These are just some of the covers.
Well, even the her tagline, "Your dream, our team." I mean,
yeah, exactly.
That nods to a story as well, right?
Exactly. Right. So, and then this is a new listing packet that we did. Again, on the left is what she had done, and on the right is how we would look at it in terms of, again, it's sort of when you go in and you sit down with a prospect, you want them to walk away going, these guys are really good. They're really professional. And part of that is to, make sure your look is really professional.
Oh, wait, you know what? I missed that when you first said it, that this was a before and after.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Right. So the left.
I'm sorry, I missed that. Okay, cool.
Right is after. So,
oh, maybe everybody caught that. Okay, can you go back one more slide and let me look at the.
So this is her FSBO.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Okay. I thought this was like front and back of something, but
No,
oh my gosh, big difference.
Sorry if I wasn't clear to everybody. Probably.
No, I just maybe missed it. Okay.
So this and I would imagine Jen probably does what a ton of agents do, which is, because you're turning things so fast, is they do Word documents turned into a PDF. So that's what's on the left.
Yeah.
10 reasons to hire Team Synergy. And what we did was we took that down to a 5-point plan. On the right, we added some imagery, and again, we have a sort of a color palette for her.
It's great.
The other thing that we worked with Jen on is she has a value proposition, which is something that is sort of a buyer's forgetting what she calls it, so I apologize. I should know this. But it's a program that it's sort of that they do staging consultation, they do professional photography, they do free home inspection. So there's a whole package of things that go into the process of helping you to sell your home.
Yeah, which is a little bit out of the ordinary.
Yeah, it's called certified listing.
Yeah, certified listing. Yeah, that free home inspection is a big thing that she's known for here.
Yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to show you some of that. Then on the left, they also do a lot of sort of neighborhood marketing, postcards and kinds of things. We just turned that into having some fun with it. So see what your neighbor's home sold. We found sort of some fun images and turned that into a postcard. We have a client looking in your neighborhood. So
that's great.
Having fun with that. See what your neighbor's home sold for. So again, it's really taking the basic strategy, but having some fun with it.
Really cool.
And then we also did some door hangers for them. And recently we just finished we're doing through our iPing program, which is a whole different story. We're doing banner ads. And this is sort of Yeah, you'll see we hold the key up. And
Mhm.
then if you click, it'll go to a landing page. And on that landing page, we have a video from Jen talking about their certified listing program and some of the facts.
Got it. Great.
And then one other thing that we did with them, we did TV because she wanted to build her brand with TV. So we did this TV spot, and I'll play it for you. Hopefully you'll be able to hear
More
it.
than a for sale sign. It's an invitation for someone to create new dreams in this place you've called home. That's why Team Synergy offers its clients free home staging and professional photography. So when it's time to tell the story of your home, call Team Synergy Real Estate Professionals, because every home has a story.
So
Great.
yeah, so that's sort of something that we've done with them. And yeah, and we're doing some logo development with some other clients. So it's a variety of things, but you know, it's sort of walking before you run. Everybody gets into branding in a different way, and I think that TV commercial will ultimately be a video on their website. So,
What are your thoughts around? And are you finished with sharing? Are
yes,
you?
I am. I'm going to stop sharing right
Stop
now.
share? Yeah. Great. What are your thoughts around how we might be able to, like for the guys on the call right now, utilize those principles in our everyday social media posting? Like what can we do right now that might start showing that side of this? Do you have thoughts around that?
Well, you know, everybody's different, you know, so it's, and Monica, you and I have laughed about this. You do your Friday dance party, and you know, I'm a coach too. I could never do that. I mean,
Right.
so everybody does something different. So I think with answering that question, everybody sort of has to get a feel for their own personality and what they think they can do. And, you know, but I think most people, the convention is, I'm going to show you my latest house.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I guess I would say is that if you're going to do that, can you again sort of tell a story about that house? And,
Mm-hmm.
you know, here's how kids were raised in that house and so on. But so I think with social media, it really is about how much you want to commit to that.
Okay.
How much time you want to commit to it and energy, but what your personality is. And everybody's got a personality. Everybody has a different sense of humor. And I think it's important to explore that. That's what, to me, is cool about social media is you can explore that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess over time you find your voice. Like it doesn't have to be perfect, right?
That's exactly right. You know, and anybody who's a writer knows you just write.
Right.
Don't worry about if it stinks because you can go back and change it, but you got to get started somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. And so if you had, you know, a very limited budget as an agent, but you wanted to embrace this idea of creating a personal brand, more so than maybe you already had, what are baby steps there?
Well, I would look at what we did with Team Synergy. I mean, I really would start and say, okay, really from the very basics, and we've done this with a number of different agents, you know, your whole look, your color palette, you know, because where Team Synergy was is they were building off the KW look, you know, and they folded the KW look, and we sort of tried to break out of that. And so I think that's a really good place to start. You know, maybe you start with a logo, and maybe you start with your collateral. I mean, because I think if you saw those side by side, again, Jen was very successful, so the collateral didn't make her successful, but it does change the game when you go to see it, and that doesn't cost a lot of money to do that. You know, I think that there's so much that can be done with video. I mean, the TV commercial that I showed you there was less than $1,000. Okay. And that was a TV commercial, but I mean, I've done videos for clients for $500 because you can use stock footage. It's how you use the tools to tell the story, you know? So, and then I think things like, you know, blogging is great. I mean, it's really one of those things for small businesses. Blogging has amazing impact and results, but you have to commit to it. So there may be something where if you have some money, you may pay a local writer to write several blogs for you a week. You know, you just might do that. So yeah, you don't have to go into television advertising.
Right. Right.
But I think that, in a somewhat a lower level than radio, one of the things we've used with some clients is Pandora, which is, which you can target, geo-target. So if you're a real estate agent working in a certain geography, Pandora is sort of a cool thing where it sounds like radio, so you're getting a radio story, and you're also going to have a visual story. So, so there are a number of different things like that. Of course, which we do is iPing, which is a nice way to get started. So it's digital advertising, it's sort of neighborhood marketing using digital ads. So there are a lot of ways, I think, cost-efficient ways to use money. But let me backtrack with that and say, I think one of the big challenges for any small business, and a real estate agent is a small business, is looking at marketing as an investment versus an expense. And if it's an expense, it's one of those things where you kind of go, I can cut that easily, as opposed to saying, how do I invest in my brand over time?
Yeah, that's a great point.
So if you want to go from, I just use that, if you want to go from 50 transactions to 100 transactions, that's not going to happen overnight. And it's going to be something where you say, I'm going to build my brand and do that in whatever way possible, have somebody do my social media for me, whatever it is. But you've got to make that commitment if you want to build your brand. There's no shortcut to doing it.
Like with anything, consistency matters. Right.
Right.
Like with dialing your expireds, consistency matters.
Exactly.
All of it. What are the big watch outs in your opinion, for branding, personal branding? Like what do we need to be aware of or steer clear of, or are there danger spots? Anything there to?
I think that, I think you just have to be really honest and real. I mean, I think one of the things is you can't oversell people. And that's one of the things to me that, it's not only in this industry, there's a tendency to oversell, as opposed to providing value to somebody. And so I would say that's, an issue no matter what business you're in, because then your brand is about selling. It's not about value. It's about being in somebody's face. And I don't know that's, for me at least, that's not a great way to go.
That reminds me of just the concept. What's that?
Can you answer your question?
Yeah, it sure did. And it reminds me of the concept of attracting and repelling. Like when you're telling your story, you're going to get out of your comfort zone. For a lot of agents, we want to walk that fine line and not, piss anybody off, for lack of a better word. And so we want to play in this little safe zone where we, steer clear of this and steer clear of that and whatever. And that's fine and it is safe, but it doesn't make impressions and it doesn't create growth. I think the idea of tell your story, be you, so that you attract the kind of people you're going to want to do business with. And it's okay that you'll repel those that you don't, because there's plenty over here. Right?
You're going to be true to yourself.
Exactly. And so the story you're telling is not one that you just think might work. You really need to tell your story and be authentic in your story, right?
That's exactly right. Great marketing is really authentic. That's a good word.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What questions do you guys have? Anybody have any questions for Doug? So, Doug, if you had $1,000 to spend and you could buy a traditional marketing kind of approach, like, I don't know, an ad of some sort, versus create some sort of story in a video, or I don't know, like you said, collateral or whatever, would you go that route these days?
You really have to have enough money to make traditional marketing work. I mean, so I'm still a believer in traditional advertising. People still use it. It's still effective. It's a great way to tell a story. So, TV is still, people are still watching television. People are still, advertising on television because it's a great way to tell a story. The challenge is, unless you have a lot of money, it's hard to build that story over time. So, I think that you can, for a fraction of that kind of money, you can do a great job with video. You can do a great job in Facebook Live. I mean, so I think there are many other ways to build a strategy, a brand strategy that doesn't involve spending a lot of money. But again, that said, things like radio and TV, they work for people.
Mm-hmm.
Question of how much risk you're willing to take on, because anything in any marketing is risk. Anything you do something different, there's an inherent amount of risk. And people always say, well, how do I know if my advertising is working? And well, you don't. I mean, you do and you don't, because it builds over time. So I think that if you've got the resources, it can be an interesting strategy to try to build awareness of yourself, because there is credibility that comes with using traditional media.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are clients who use it just for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
There still is this sort of credibility factor that you get by being out there broadcast.
Yeah. However, what's more credible than you being you and standing in your authentic sort of truth and brand? Like, that's also where you can build credibility.
Yeah,
you can do it.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. So I guess one thing I'm sitting here thinking of for agents on the call is I hope you've taken a minute and sort of thought about that. What is my personal brand? How am I showing up to my clients? How am I showing up to the world? Am I showing up at all? First of all, I coach a lot of agents, and I'm telling you that's the first thing, that's the most common challenge, is people aren't showing up. They're not flying their flag.
Yeah.
And so think about that, and an awareness around that first and foremost is what then will cause the change. And
I would say, Monica, that to me, I think an agent's website is so critical. And I think there's a tremendous opportunity with websites to use websites to tell your story and to break those conventions about here's what a real estate agent website needs to look like.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I just do. I mean, I think that there is a tremendous amount of latitude for creativity and to tell a story and
mm-hmm.
to show yourself as being different.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Awesome. And all right. So did you have anybody have any questions for Doug? And Doug, do you have any final thoughts or kind of anything I didn't touch on you wanted to?
I mean, I could have put a slide up with my email in case anybody wants to call or talk or have, questions.
Yeah, let's do that so they can go back to it. Put your slide up so we can get a hold of you.
I said I didn't do one, so.
Oh, you didn't do it. Oh, here, I'm going to put it in this. How do you want them to reach you? By email?
Well, they could do Doug
at
radioanddigital.com.
At radio
and digital.
And digital.com. Doug at radioanddigital.com. Oh, I did that to a private. Hold on. Sorry, I meant to do this all out here. Doug at radioanddigital.com. Awesome. So if you guys want to poke, don't poke Doug. If you want, please don't poke him. If you want to, what was I even going to say? I was going to say, if you want to pick his brain, pick his brain.
Pick away, yeah.
Don't poke his brain, yeah. If you want to pick his brain, I am sure he would be happy to get on the phone with you or have an email exchange. Please reach out to him. He's one of the nicest guys you'll meet. And Doug, we really appreciate you being here today. This is good stuff for us to think about. It's hard to sort of instantaneously change it overnight, but it's one of those things, like you said, commit to it and be consistent with it and begin to morph into your story.
Exactly. That's right.
Love that. Love that. Well, thank you, Doug, and thank you, Espresso Agent folks. And again, if you want to see this video back, you will be able to see it on Espresso Agent's YouTube channel. Maybe not today or tomorrow. I'm not sure how quickly they put it up, but it will be there. All right?
Thanks, everybody. Take
Doug,
care.
thanks for your time.
Okay, bye.
See ya. Bye.